Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to be showing you how to repair ripped seams on an orthopaedic dog bed. So this is one of the areas that is ripped and is one of the areas that I'm going to be repairing. So I started off by unzipping the back of the bed. This is where the foam is and this is the body of the bed. So this is like the high impact area of where the dog lays the most. So this is the foam, and as you can see it is worn, but I just pop it to one side. I lay it down flat and then I start to unzip the borders. So this sits on top of the foam that you just saw, and this is a filler and it's a border, so it goes round all of the edges of the bed. I then put the filament with the foam just to one side because you're going to need it later on. So as you can see, these are the other two rips that I am going to be repairing. This one is on the zip line. It is quite big, but it can be repaired back to new. So I'll just give it a good shake just to remove like any dust, dirt or grime. And then before I sew, I like to wash everything so it is fresh. So the setting that I use is allergies and it's 60 degrees. So this wash is for an hour, and I just think it's nicer just to work on a clean project. So before sewing, if it's any of my own stuff, I will always wash it beforehand. So once it's done, I then hang it out to dry. As we've had a huge heat wave at the minute, this took absolutely no time to dry, but you can put it in the tumble dryer if needed. So as you can see, this is the rip, and after washing it's absolutely fine. It doesn't cause any more damage. It's quite a big rip as it is, so washing is fine. So I started off by cutting back any loose threads, as these are quite straggly and quite long and you just don't want them. So I just used a pair of embroidery scissors and I just cut back as close as possible to the base of the threads, just removing anything that you can see because you don't need to. So first of all, I started off by cutting back any frayed areas. So these areas are weaker because they are frayed and the fibre of the fabric has opened. So it is a weaker area. So to begin, I just trim back as much as possible because one, you don't need it. Two, you want a nicer, a fresher and a brand new looking seam. And thirdly, if you leave this in, the seam will look quite messy. It'll be quite hard to see where you're stitching, and again it can be weak too. So if you do stitch all of this frayed fabric in, the hole could just happen again because it's a weak area. So you want a fresh start. So I did trim back quite a bit, and you do want to trim it back so then the edge is completely fresh, but it's totally up to you of how much you do want to remove. If you're working with like a tighter area, I understand why you might be hesitant to cut it back, but it is best to cut it back. Obviously, you don't go crazy and start hacking it and taking off like centimeters and centimeters, because again, that will cut into the size of the seam and it will also cut into the size of the panel, which will distort the shape, which you don't want to do. But equally, you do want to cut back quite a bit just because it's nicer and it will look more professional when it is finished, and it will help you see the stitch line. So it will help you to see where you're sewing. It will also be much clearer on where to pin the two lines of fabric together to create the new seam. So I just started like working from one side to the other really, but you can do whatever works best for you. I feel like with this, the more you start cutting, the more you start to see areas that you just don't need. So here I am taking a little bit more back just because I thought I needed to. So as you can see here, this is the seam freshly cut. So these are aligned now. This is it pinned, and this is the second. This is pinned. So this is pinned along the zip line. So this is the lining. I also did trim it back and just pin it again. So I started sewing, and the pins are facing me, so I can pull it out as I go down. So I am sewing on a global industrial straight stitch, but you can use any machine really that will take this material. It's just polyester, so you can use a domestic if needed. I'm just using black polyester thread to match the fabric. Once that's done, I then restitch a second stitch line on the top, and then I trim back any excess that you just like no longer need. So once the seam is sewn, you want to reduce any bulk in the areas that you can see. So again, just using the scissors, I'm just trimming back all of the bulky areas that you no longer need, just because this will be inside of the seam, which you won't see from the outside, but you still want to remove it just because it is quite bulky in some areas where it's excess fabric and you don't need it. Don't cut into the stitch line, just trim along the stitch line, leaving an allowance of like 0.5 centimeters, so it does have a little bit of a give in the seam. I then stitch the lining to the zip, well, along the zip. Don't stitch on top of the zip directly. You don't want to stitch on the teeth because you won't be able to close it. It could also break the zip, which is just not good because you won't be able to use it. You'll have to unpick it and do it all again. So I just go down as close as possible to the zip edge. I just pin it as close as possible without pinning on it. So as you can see here, it is stitched as close as possible. Using an overlocker, this is just a domestic overlocker. I just go over the seam just to reinforce it. So to finish the overlocking stitch, I just tie it quite a few times just so it doesn't like rip or it prevents it from fraying. And then again, using some scissors, I just trim the excess off. As you can see, this is the new seam now, so it just looks brand new, which is good. It's what you want it to look like. So you need to put the foam back in. So this is like putting a duvet inside of bedding. So what you want to do is lay it flat and go corner to corner. Sometimes you need to give it like a good shake. Sometimes you need to give it like a little smack just to get the foam laying flat, whatever works best for you really. But then once it's in, you then just zip it up all the way around. Sometimes the foam is a little bit of like a fight, but this is quite easy. And then lay it flat again, turn it around, and then you want to put the border back in. So this is the border foam or filament. So starting from one side, you want to work your way all the way around to the other side. Again, putting corner to corner, and then you basically just align it where you need to. Sometimes this can be like a little of a fight. So if you're an upholsterer or you do any upholstery sewing, you will know like foam fights on the regular. So this will be easy for you. But if you do find it's quite hard, you just need to like push the filament in as much as possible, align both sides of the zip together, hold it close as much as possible, and then you just pull the zip to close it in place. And you just do this the whole way round the border until it is completely zipped. If you are finding it quite difficult, you could ask somebody to hold two sides of the zip for you and you pull the zip a little bit like a dress, or you can ask for somebody just to help you put the filament back in. But either way, you just need to like stuff it in as much as possible and then do the zip the whole way around. Again, you might need to do like a little shake or a little pull just to help you align it in, but it is very soft material, so it is easily pliable. You can move it quite easy, which is really nice. So again, you just want to make sure that it's like fully into the shape as well. So again, essentially it's like putting bedding on a bed, but you just keep on doing that like the whole way around. And as you can see, that is the new seam, so it looks brand new. You would never have known that there was that massive rip before. And then this is what it looks like. Thank you for watching.